Upgrades, people, upgrades! That's how we make the dough.
Mario 64 DS is one of the more controversial Mario titles. While developing the DS, Nintendo needed to prove it could do big 3D games, so they crammed Mario 64 onto the handheld. Obviously, they had to make some concessions to get it working, namely in controls. Character input is limited to the D-pad, and they added a run button to help make precise movements easier. In general, they're usable, and can even feel good while you're running around Peach's courtyard. But when it's time to do some coherent platforming, they can get frustrating. But today I wanted to put those critiques to the side, and strictly examine the game design. Did 64DS actually improve over the original? Or did its changes end up falling flat? Originally, this video was going to be a very detailed list of all the level design changes, but after writing a full script with that, most of it doesn't matter. For example, in DS you're required to catch this rabbit to get inside the castle. This was probably added to let the player get even more used to the controls, but arguably takes away from the atmosphere outside the castle. The point is, we could analyze which version of Bob on Battlefield is better, but the differences are so minor, it doesn't really matter. A lot of the changes aren't better or worse, just different. If you do want a video going super in-depth on each level, comment that down below, and I'll consider making it. And maybe subscribe while you're at it, it'll help me survive. What this video is going to go over is a high-level overview of the game's structure. I want to examine what the new stars, characters, and stages do to the overall flow of the game, which is the main thing impacted in DS. However, if there are any particular level changes that I think are interesting, I'll mention them. With all that yapping out of the way, let's get started. DS introduces 30 new stars, bringing the total up to 150. You would assume that this would necessitate an increase in the star door counts, and you'd be half right. The first and last star doors have higher numbers. The 30 and 50 star doors remain the same. Examining the foyer star door, the amount required has been increased from 8 to 12. However, this isn't just to account for the new stars. Gaining 8 now allows you to go rescue Mario from a brand new level, which is a really clever setup. Starting the game as Yoshi puts a big twist on a familiar opening. But when you hit that magic number 8, you still get a boss fight. Just a completely different boss than usual. Then after that, you get to spend 4 levels with a Wahoo Man before moving on to Bowser. This is a great pace, because you've likely already grabbed a Mario hat as Yoshi, so you don't need a ton of practice as Mario, but you still get to explore the previous levels as him. Additionally, it just plays well at the first floor. The foyer is the only part of the castle where you have these mini star doors with individual levels locked behind each one. Adding another level to that structure feels satisfying. Moving on from the foyer, the amount of stars needed to access Big Boo's Haunt has been increased to 15. The previous requirement was 12, so this prevents it from overlapping with the Bowser fight, and ensures you probably won't unlock Luigi before fighting Bowser. Speaking of Luigi, when you unlock Big Boo's Haunt, you're able to go get him. All of these changes keep the pace at the beginning really snappy, with constant level and character unlocks. I also really like how they hid Luigi's portrait inside another level. From there the game will play out mostly the same until you reach Wario in the last star door. You get Wario at a good point. By the time you reach him, it'll likely have been a while since you got Luigi, and if you still don't have Luigi at this point, it's a good clue to go find him. As a brief aside, I really like how you rescue each character by using the previously unlocked one, except for poor Wario, who doesn't get to go rescue anyone. Anyway, before we talk about the ramifications of the final star door, I had 2 levels I thought were worth mentioning here. Battle Fort is a completely new level found in the courtyard, and is a nice addition. It introduces 2 of the more annoying enemies earlier on, in a much safer environment. The other level I wanted to mention is Whomp's Fortress, which actually received a lot of changes. First off, I really like this new green section surrounding the bottom of the level. It makes traversing in a circle much easier, and reduces the threat of dying from the void, which is fair in the second level. What I don't like about Whomp's Fortress is the new shape of the cage island. Instead of being a circular cage with an open top, it's shaped like a house at the edge of a larger platform. I suspect they did this to make landing on it with the owl easier, but this makes it impossible to triple jump to. Well, I think so. I did a bunch of tests, and it might still be possible, but I just wasn't able to get the angle quite right. Finally, this level also missed an opportunity to make an improvement. If you know Mario 64, break away the wall is an easy star to grab, but if you're new to the game, it can be pretty esoteric, requiring you to can into this corner. It seems like this would have been a great opportunity to place the star's location onto the minimap, to make the goal clearer. Returning to the star doors, the final one has been increased from 70 stars to 80, which really ends up backloading the game. While doing research for this video, I stumbled upon this Reddit post that pointed out something interesting. In Mario 64, every time you pass a big star door, you don't have to go to any of the old levels again. Once you leave the lobby, you can only play levels in the basement, and once you leave the basement, you can only play levels in the second floor. there'll always be enough stars to progress. Once you reach the very top of the castle, you have to go back to previous levels. Even if you get every star on Tick-Tock Clock and Rainbow Ride, there's not enough to get 70. Now, I absolutely wouldn't say backtracking to old levels is a bad thing, but because there aren't enough stars on the 3rd floor, the choice to backtrack gets taken away from you. This little quirk doesn't ruin the game or anything, but if you ever felt fatigued near the end of Mario 64, maybe they had a part to play in it. Especially if you play DS, where you have to go through an additional 10 levels. Seriously, while streaming this game, I hit 70 stars and my brain went, okay, the stream is going to end soon, but then I had to play through another 10 levels. It ends up being a big road bump, and I would have preferred for the 30 and 50 star doors to also be increased. What about the new type of stars they introduced? Well, I'm glad to say that I think DS did pretty well in this regard. The game has a bunch of new stars in it, with the two main types being Silver Stars and Switch Stars. Silver Stars are a lot like Red Coins. We have to collect all of them to get a star. Whereas Red Coins focus more on finding, Silver Stars are about getting. They're on your map at all times, so the challenge comes from getting the star in whatever situation it's in, like being dragged behind Chain Chomp. You also have to be careful not to get hit, otherwise you'll drop one. Overall, I really like these stars. They fit the game perfectly and take advantage of the open-ended levels. Switch Stars introduce a speed challenge. One of Mario 64's strengths is being able to do missions out of order, and these play right into that. They're always present in the level, and once pressed, you have to race to the star before it disappears. There's not much more to say. They're just a good addition and add to the open-endedness. Where the new stars, and particularly changes to the old stars, begin to fall apart, is anything involving new characters. See, some stars can only be grabbed by certain characters. This makes sense on paper, and is like the caps in the original, but it can be annoying in practice. If you're playing as the wrong character, it means you'll either have to scrounge up that plumber's hat, or run all the way back to the character select room. This is especially annoying if you have to use Yoshi, who doesn't have a hat equivalent. You could play as just Yoshi, since he can pick anyone's hat right at the start, but that just feels unideal. Like, you're telling me I shouldn't play as Super Mario? This new friction doesn't really add a new challenge to the game, and feels a bit more like a time waster. Take the new star in Jolly Roger Bay for instance. You need Luigi to use his Vanish power. That sounds fine, but then you realize it's basically the exact same mission as through the jet stream, where you use the metal power to get through the rushing water. Technically, into the jet stream can be cheesed with the right angle, so I guess this new mission is an uncheesable version, but it still feels like uninspired filler. Uninspired filler is still better than the elephant in the room. Wario. I'm sorry, my boy, but they've ruined ya. Wario is the slowest character in the game. He makes up for it by having the worst jump. He's also the only one who can destroy black bricks, which are all over the game. Sometimes these bricks can be fine. It's a good challenge in Shifting Sand Lane, for instance, but in a lot of cases, it feels like the developers just needed anything for Wario to do. Like the new level in Dire Dire Docks, where he breaks the bricks and then goes in a straight line to get the star. Or how you now need Wario to access the Moat's secret stage, even though both stars can only be obtained with other characters' powers, meaning you'll have to equip their hats anyway. These stars aren't the worst in the world, but Wario is still the least fun to play as, and a lot is locked behind him. It wouldn't be completely fair to rag on him without considering the other side of the coin. Luigi is a powerhouse. He can literally walk on water and do a spin jump so high, it makes up for the fact that he can't wall jump. Luigi is able to skip the titular maze in Hazy Maze Cave. You could make the argument that further messes with the balancing of the game, since Luigi makes so much trivial, but to be honest, I don't really care. At the end of the day, he's really fun to play as, and I think it would have been cool if they made Wario just as broken. Like, maybe Wario could have used his shoulder bass to be the quickest character, perform the best on flat terrain. Anything would have been better than making him be a glorified key for a couple levels. With all the changes to the pacing, stars, and the new characters, do I think DS improved the game design of the original? Well, after considering everything, I do think the original has a slight edge on DS. Mario 64 is a super streamlined experience, and while DS does add a lot that blends together with the existing levels, a lot of it can feel kinda tacked on. That doesn't make DS a bad game. It's still enjoyable and offers a different take on Mario 64. With a couple more changes, it could easily surpass the original. I will say, if you do want to give DS a try, absolutely install the analog stick mod. It's how I played this time around, and it made ignoring the controls while analyzing this game a lot easier. And as someone whose first experience with 64 was the DS version, it'll always hold a place in my heart. So, what's the ultimate conclusion of this video? Well, I guess when you ignore the things people don't like about a game, it can turn out to be completely fine. Which seems kinda obvious in retrospect. I don't know. When I wrote this down on my list of video ideas, I thought I might really discover something profound here, but now we're at the end of the video and it's basically the same place we started in. Thanks to my channel members. Join us next time where we'll discuss why the water in Sonic Adventure matters. Maybe that's where the profound commentary is at.